Hello. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for joining us on our new online series. And so you, first of all, I love your studio.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your studio was amazing that you made, and it was just a real nice, yeah, it's absolutely stunning.
Thank you. I think I've had more compliments about studio than anything else.
And the work, sorry. I feel like we've known each other for a long time, but we've never had a large body of work like this before. And ever since you've built that studio, that's when everything now has become serious about the art business. It's like, yes, you're ready now. You're ready for the show and you're ready to do the art fairs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a leap of faith, wasn't it? And I think the confidence for me is like, as well as just having a place where you can do the work, is this was built out of the painting as well. So everything, I suppose it was just realizing the value of the work, and I didn't want to invest money in something that didn't necessarily have a return at the same time. It was okay to paint and it was okay to release, but actually to earn a few quid and to actually build this place where it could then, you know, build momentum afterwards it was good. It was a good thing to do, you know.
Can I ask you first? You said you studied NCAD, so how did that all happen? How did you want to go to NCAD from? When did you move over to Ireland? And
well, I've kind of always been good. I've always been pretty good at painting and creativity, and in a kind of a broader sense. You know, my dad would have bought me like a painted by numbers set when I was far too young to be oil painting, and I think I probably annihilated the study that I was in at the time with oil paint all in the wrong places. I've always been creative. I've not necessarily been not academic. I've been above average, but I suppose I excelled at painting, and it just got to a stage where I was living in Nottingham, and there were things not necessarily happening for me. So I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to go to somewhere that was further afield and culturally significant and stronger. And Ireland always, you know, I sort of as a teenager in the early 90s, like the Pogues and the music and everything meant so much to me. It really sort of resonated with me. And so I came to NCAD, and I just felt it was the right move at the time. And you know, I met my wife in the last year in NCAD and never left. It was just a good move for me altogether, you know.
what did your wife study in NCAD?
She was graphic design, and I was painting.
Yeah.
But it was a funny time. It was a funny time, I suppose, in that sort of at that time, because painting, even though a lot of us were painting, the notion of painting as we'd sort of known was kind of dead, and so they killed it. So I spent a lot of my NCAD days doing installation work. Like my final exhibition in the RHA was bumper cars, and I had a cinema rotating in the basement.
I remember that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a bit scary.
But it was more to sort of push the conceptual side of stuff, and the aesthetic of genius, of mark making, those kind of things were kind of dead. You needed a good reason to paint, you know, and it's weird because it's never left me. It's like I when I went to NCAD, I was a really strong portrait painter, and I think I spent my last month in core year, which is the first year, which they don't necessarily have anymore, I don't think, with Mick O'D doing life painting in one of the life drawing studios and listening to jazz, and it was just a lovely experience. And I did really well sort of through NCAD. It was an interesting process because I managed to put down all of those things which is about aesthetic and kind of pick up the more conceptual side of stuff, which I suppose kind of prepared me for a more professional, creative role, because I'm sort of advertising creative, so it kind of prepared you mentally, creatively, aside from what essentially is a progression through art direction, through graphic design. You know, people tend to kind of move through graphic design into creative, into artist sort of advertising creative, whereas I came through painting, which made it a little bit different because I was dealing with installation work. So a lot of my work has been experiential and fairly conceptual as a result of that, you know.
That journey. So you've worked during the day. So you obviously find it hard to get a body of work together because you've got your day job. So you're trying to fit this in the evening time as well. Is it at the weekends?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's kind of weird because this is a completely different set of muscles to what you do when you're a creative. I mean, there's a lot of aesthetic, and I mean, you know, you don't necessarily have to explain that so much in advertising. But I've addressed this recently for a year now. I don't do as much of that anymore. I'm freelance. I choose good gigs to work with now. I have a much better creative life balance. So I can spend much more time, pick and choose what time I want to spend in the studio, be much more flexible about that. I mean, and it's kind of prepared me for COVID in a way.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing Zoom calls and working from a studio and working out my front room and doing this for a year, and everybody's kind of realised, oh, this is brilliant. This
Yeah.
I don't have to leave the house, and I've been doing it now for I've been doing it for a year, and I love it, and I like it. It's definitely the way to go, you know. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing better work on both sides. I'm doing better painting, and I'm doing better of the other work, and I'm spending less time doing that and more time doing this. So, you know, makes sense.
It's definitely the strongest work I have seen from you. I love it.
Oh,
is this your first large show that you've managed to put together, or have you done?
It's funny really because I've not had the studio space. I mean, I've always kind of painted out of sheds and borrowed time. I did build a studio in my mother-in-law's house, and I was resident in my mother-in-law's, artist in residence in my mother-in-law's house for like nearly 10 years, whilst my family were being born and growing up, and I'm eternally grateful for all that she's done for that. But even prior to that, I was in my neighbour's greenhouse and working out that. So I've never really been able to, you know, life has kind of got in the way of doing a massive body of work. And now my kids they're going to secondary school. My second youngest daughter is just in 6th class next year, and she goes to secondary school. So I kind of have more time to realise this. I can. You know, I do work during the day. I can walk out of the house at 5 o'clock and work till 1 o'clock in the morning in the studio, and nobody asks where Dad is anymore. You know, it's walking up can get done.
The cat is keeping an eye on you.
Yeah, well, kind of. And I always, you know, they're always popping up and everything, and you know, so it's great.
There's a question.
I think go back to your questions. Yeah, it's fantastic to get a bigger body of work together.
Yeah.
And what I found is that I nearly created too much, to a point where I got nowhere to put it. And I mean, my video shows all the work on the walls. I don't usually work with all my work on the walls. And I had a visit recently from Diana Copperwhite, who was very enthusiastic and very complimentary, and also didn't really talk about my work that much. She was more encouraging about, well, you just need to show your work now. You've done enough. And I always thought you could never do enough. And actually, having the ability to be able to choose 4 or 5 pieces rather than all your work to put in an exhibition, I think is really, really helpful. So I think that's the difference, is I can have 4 or 5 pieces which aren't necessarily all painted together, and being able to exhibit work and also borrow work back, which is your better work, and be able to put that into a show which sort of speaks about what you're actually trying to say with the work, you know, is the interesting thing to be able to achieve now, which I've never really been able to do before.
I think with every artist, you have to leave the work in the studio for quite a long time and revisit it and you know, even turn it away for a while and then go back to it again. And I can see your work, there's a lot of layers and texture on your work. So I think you obviously have a few on the go at the same time and keep revisiting them.
Yeah, I did on the video actually. I think I kind of showed. I put 3 pieces up so you can kind of see them. So this one obviously I love, and I kind of put it up there because it's kind of important in the sense that this motion and these bigger brush strokes are much more intentional than possibly stuff that I've done previously. I'm not as scared of that as I was for a while. I needed it to be really organic, and I think probably 3 pieces. If you think about the progression of these 3 pieces, they're not necessarily a critique, but they are worked on side by side. You know,
see that.
Even this one as well. You know, so when you see stuff like this engulfed piece, this would kind of, I could do this in 3 visits.
Yeah.
And it just fell out of the process as a result, and you kind of know when you stop. You know when that's part of it, is learning when you've achieved what you wanted to do, because I can then go ahead and make as many mistakes as I want on these 3. You know, so I can really just put a pin in it, leave that one away, and not feel too worried that I haven't pushed it even further in each one of these, you know? And I think that's what working on more than one piece, more than 4 or 5 pieces at a time is, that you just you can kind of leave one, work on another one, you know, let it go, and give you, it sort of shows the boundaries of where you can then push it. You can nearly bring all 3 that along to that stage, or leave one behind and continue doing that. So you're kind of creating a buffer. For you know, for if you really feel that you might make a wrong move.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with my work is I've kind of pushed it and been glad that I've pushed it. You know, because I want to be able to take chances, and I know that I'm not taking enough chances at the moment. I know that there's so much more. So much more to do from where I am at the moment, but I know that I'm happy that I've taken this step. It's a very first step, I think, in terms of creating a good body of work, and you just move on from there, you know.
Dan, I don't know if you can see the questions there. Can you?
No.
Oh, so if Robbie should have done this at the start. If you go up to the very top, there's comments there.
Are we on the Facebook page?
Yeah. No. On this page we're on.
So
just above, there's a comment.
Live comments, is it?
See the comments? Will I read them out?
Yes, please.
So Anna Wells wants to know, have you always worked in oils?
Yes. I have worked in oil. I love to work in pencil and graphite, something that's really immediate and something that is spontaneous. I find watercolor can be a little bit, you have to plan it a little bit more. I really love printmaking, I love etching, and I love screen printing, but unless you're monoprinting, you know, there's various restrictions. Even though this is a lovely studio, creating a screen printing or printing version of this is just really, really hard to do now. I really love oil painting, and one of the reasons I used to love oil painting was I'd paint so infrequently that everything that I'd done previously that I liked dry, so I could either paint over it and then remove it if I didn't like it, or do those kind of things. So I found it, whilst it was quite very permanent, it was also easy to kind of take a step back every now and again and not, you know, do something really. I mean, I can remember going in numerous occasions, going in and painting over something really, you know, taking real risk and kind of doing it, and then probably about half an hour later just going and removing it all with white spirit and just not doing it, you know, and I think that's part of your bravery. I don't know if it's bravery or your, you know, just a way of being able to kind of be confident enough with the marks that you make. It's a process to move forward, and it doesn't always have to look great, you know. So yeah, I do work with oil, and I love oil. I would like a less, a sort of a more sustainable version of oil, because I do think that a lot of my work is sort of influenced aesthetically by organic and sort of environmental kind of things. I have a little thing on screen which kind of shows some of the stuff that I have from National Geographic and those kind of things. And there's a lot of a synergy with those kind of underwater forests, landscapes, but that's not the intention, it's abstract expressionism. But I do find that oil is not necessarily the best thing to be painting with. You know, I'd like to find something that's more environmentally efficient.
And Dan, do you like doing commissions, or do you prefer not to?
I don't know. I do like doing commissions because I like the process of someone coming and saying, "I really like your work. Will you paint me a picture?" But I don't necessarily like. I saw a comment which was about taking a swatch and doing it that way. This isn't necessarily about home furnishing. It's about painting primarily. If somebody gave me, I need a 6 meter. I suppose this one here, this triptych I'm working on here, it's not a commission. But if somebody said I wanted that was 5 meters long and 2 meters high or whatever, and I want it to be predominantly blue and gave me a bit more of a brief about it, then I would respond to it that way. I like to do not just one painting, but maybe two, and then they come in and have a think about which one they like the best, and maybe even have a look at how it's going on halfway through. But I'm not a massive fan of commission because I think you have to. I'm not at that stage yet. I don't think. I think the work that I do is much more about how the work is evolving at the moment, and I'd much prefer somebody to just come in, have a look at the show, and buy work that I'm responding to, rather than me responding to them.
There's a few comments there for you.
I can't see you.
If you go to your top right-hand screen, you'll see above banners and comments, the bar where it has settings.
Oh yeah.
Do you see the comments button?
Yes.
If you click on that, you'll see the comments. Sorry, we should have done it. We should have figured this one out at the start.
Yeah. Who are your influences? Interesting, very interesting. Because in terms of artists, I find that coming from a college perspective, I always had a very strong influence by various artists at various stages. And then as I've kind of become older and I've become more, I suppose, online, I'm finding that
different.
I can be influenced by anything at any stage. It doesn't necessarily become an artist that does it. I mean, artists are so varied, and because of the internet, we can see a different piece every time. It's like the perfect mixtape is not by any, the perfect mixtape doesn't contain more than one song by one artist. I could screen share something here. I just showed you something. So this is what influences me, and I think it's more immediate, and I think people are sort of resonate with, social media has this ability to be able to kind of put images in front of you that aren't necessarily about artists. Now, I do have some artists here, but I'm just going to run through this quickly in terms of the images that present themselves in front of me all the time. And whilst they don't necessarily influence me, they kind of ground me in a way that, this is similar. This is kind of where I am. And as you go through this is NASA sort of landscapes. And I know people see a lot of this kind of stuff, but there's water, there's like receding ice caps. There was this piece as well, which is waves. It reminds me of this piece that I did. It's the only one where I've actually named it properly. It was the fall and rise of Erskine Britain.
See that.
Yeah, it was a response to a TED talk that I actually went to, where she talked about the only way to learn how to surf was to learn how to fall, and talked about surfing with Iranian surfers. So there's this stuff as well, really atmospheric, deltas, the way that the land masses can move exactly the same as water can move. and all of these kind of things from a galaxy all the way down to, you know, bacteria.
Dan, we can't see the screen share.
You can't see it?
No, sorry.
Okay. Well, it's really good.
It looks really good.
Yeah. You can't see that then? Oh dear. No. How about now?
No. Oh, hang on. There we go. I can add it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all over the place though. Oh, there, we've got a little bit. Yeah, okay, I can see where you're on about. Yeah.
This is what I was talking about in terms of the, you know, NASA pieces.
I totally see why you're attracted to these images. Yeah.
Receding ice caps, you know. This was Erskine, Britain. So this is a wave. This was the fall and rise of Erskine, Britain. This is like, you know, so all of these things I see all the time. These are popping up in my feeds, and they kind of feed my, I suppose,
your inspiration.
So you go from something that's enormous in the sky right down to something that's microscopic. And our friend coronavirus, you know, you know, ice caps melting, microscopic. So it's always there, and I suppose that's what starts to influence this piece. Like Sanctuary, you can see all this thing, and then you can see this, which is called Fury, which was, again, there's something organic and Delta-esque about the way it's done. This one also was kind of the first time I was throwing this, but you can see this kind of void, this space that doesn't necessarily, it's not literal, it's just, it has this real emotional value to it. And this one, which is beyond, which is where I'm starting to use some of these gestural paint strokes again. And I guess in terms of the artists that influence me, I can get that from anywhere. But there's people that I'm picking up all the time, and just a few examples of the people that I love. And you know, the work that they do could be on small pieces of paper. You know, Monica Perez, all this kind of, you know, beautiful gestural stuff. Sarah Pittman Studio, all American artists, all women actually, beautiful as well. Erin Lawler, look at that, it's absolutely gorgeous. And then going back to Diana Copperwhite, amazing kind of work, absolutely amazing. And you know, Pinterest or whatever can really kind of, it just brings it to you. So it's very much about the kind of work that you consume. The influences would have been, I suppose, out of books and things to start with, but I think with the internet, is you can just open up anything nowadays. And I think conceptually speaking, you know, you can look into work and practices and start conversations with artists. And I think you learn more about what they have to say about their work than the work that they do. So me talking to abstract expressionists is a good thing, but I don't talk to enough of them. I'd love to talk to more. So if you are out there and you're listening to this, then please get in touch, because the network over here in Ireland, compared to the likes of, say, New York or London or places like that, I think they have a lot more power in those places. The collectives and networks seem to influence what galleries do, and I don't think the artists influence what galleries do in Ireland so much anymore. And that's not necessarily for you, Julie. I'm not necessarily pointing that. I'm talking about, you know, there's the likes of Mother Tank and Imma, and the work that they put into them, I think are incredible. And they need to sort of represent what's modern Irish art now, and that filters out into everything, you know. And I think that sometimes why actually influences it more, you know.
And then there's a good few questions there. There's Veronica Dooley. I don't know if you see that.
Veronica Dooley. I know Veronica Dooley. What did she say?
Oh, I thought you were reading it. Sorry. Do you feel in control of your paintings?
Do I do what?
Do you feel in control of your paintings and know exactly where it's going, or do you let accidents happen and see where the painting takes you?
I don't know. There's a certain amount of control. I think what you do is you get to a certain stage where the skeleton's there and the bones are there, and there's certain bits where I can leave it at 12 o'clock and arrive back at sort of 8 a.m. the next morning, and it's a completely different thing. And I think it's the way that, and usually that's when I'm working at early stages, when it's on the floor and I'm putting in floods of color and I'm putting in weights and rags and stuff to kind of soak up and draw paint from one side of the canvas to the other. I can use pipes and blow to various things to push them. So I'm aware of ways of controlling the painting, but I suppose I keep turning it so that I break it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like to have too much control of it too early on. I like it to grow organically, but you mix your own colors, you put your own stuff in, you think compositionally about how they work. You know if you wipe out a lot of the marks that are already there and you concentrate on one single area, it's much easier to work with. There's a lot of control, but at the same time, it's a bit crazy.
And then Adam DeVale wants to know, do you ever go into a painting without a clue to what you want? Which is probably similar.
Not really. I suppose you mix a color to start with, you get into it. We talked about this, didn't we, a little while ago? And I find now what I'm doing is I'm getting to a jumping off point that's much further down the line. So I've kind of made all these mistakes earlier on in terms of how you start a painting. I know how to start a painting, and I arrive at the middle of a painting much quicker now, rather than, oh, do I do this? And I kind of know what I am to a certain, it's not necessarily templated, but it's more or less to a stage where you go, okay, and now's where the freedom comes. And that's what I love.
Another question, does music inspire you?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
I'll publish a playlist after this. I can play mostly loud music, of my era, mainly sort of Nirvana, full blast, Rage Against the Machine, all the way down into something much more subtle, which might be, I don't know, more piano, more classical kind of stuff. I really love it. I listen to actually 60s music quite a lot. And when I'm not doing that, probably I might move into podcasts and those kind of things. So I quite love a podcast as long as it's entertaining. I can't bear to be educated through a podcast, maybe culturally, but not in any other way. I like Dringo and Phil Reens is a great companion when you're painting, because it just takes you to a different place, and allows the process to still happen. I can nearly watch TV whilst I'm painting. I don't know.
Really?
Right?
So the lockdown has been quite positive for you then, you know, that you're able to focus on this body of work. It hasn't been a negative impact on your...
No, it's business as usual. And what's great is that I'm actually much closer to a lot of the people out there, which I haven't really had much contact with, because they are doing a similar thing. I can check in with friends that I haven't seen for a long time. I have a very good group of friends back in Nottingham who I rely on emotionally to kind of get us, and I think we all rely on each other. We have a Friday night Zoom, and I've opened up the corridors of conversation where I can chat to them at 10 o'clock and in the morning, and then later on in the evening, and they're available to kind of do that. Whereas actually, it's quite a lonely existence if you're freelancing on your own and doing that. But everybody in the same boat it's really lovely thing to do. Some people, but obviously not for others.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because a lot of people are saying that it's because it's such a lonely lifestyle normally. But now that everybody's in the same situation, they're reaching out and doing more video calls. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, more for it. I think it's definitely going to change things. I think people are going to be more aware of not being able, not having to go and do all that kind of stuff, not having to travel, and spending more time with people that they care about. It's good.
So
I'd also bought I'd stockpiled a whole load of canvases at the end of about a year ago. And building more. I was kind of only halfway through this process, and then COVID hit, and I was like, okay, well, I've got plenty to do. You're keep me busy. But I need the art supplies to open on the 28th of May, so I can get some more stuff as quickly as possible.
So everyone's creative in your family. So your children are they following the same path then as well?
I'm trying to keep them broad-minded about it. I was, as I said, I wasn't particularly academic, but I was really good at art. My kids are good at art. My daughter, my two daughters. So Ava is my eldest daughter. She is a serial sort of Texaco winner and was also shortlisted in the Portraiture Prize last year. She doesn't do Texaco anymore because she's more environmentally turned on now. So she's decided to drop the power oil providers, whatever they are. And Esme, pretty much everything she picks up, she's creative with. She's like Lego. She's dancing, singing. She's much more three-dimensional. She can pick up a device and know how to work with it. She's incredible the way that she adapts to kind of new technologies and those kind of things. So they're very creative. But I want to. I mean, fortunately, they're both really academic as well. So I try and create a balance so that they can make a choice later on, rather than what I think I did. And my parents realised that was really easy. You just kind of go with that, will you? It's the best thing to do. And it kind of was,
It's funny you say about the Lego, because I know when we were talking to Dave West last week, he said that was his big inspiration, was making Lego. He was really good at doing it. And he believes that's what made him so creative and such a good artist, because it's building shapes and colors. And I just think it's interesting how you're saying that is the same kind of path with your daughters as well.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I remember having a massive box of Lego when I was a kid, and I would have played for hours and hours just making Lego stuff. And my daughter does it. I can hear it. It's just that, that kind of wave of shh.
Yeah.
You're looking for the one microscopic red light that is going to finish off the whole thing, and I'll hear it for like be downstairs and on for shh. Yeah, she's brilliant.
So we have another question. How do you keep motivated after all these years?
Because I like it. Yeah, I think I like it. I really like it. It's one of those things where I think I have a good momentum now, and I think I have my own thing. I have my own identity through painting, which I think I struggled with for quite a long time, because I didn't really think the work that I did was that good. I think it was, and I think it's kind of a sign of, just owning it, and if it's not that good, what makes it better? Yeah. And I struggled with that for a long time, and I know that I'm kind of to a standard now where I can, it's good, it's okay, it works, and I know that sometimes something comes along, and it'll be my favorite picture for like 6 months, and I'll walking in, that's bloody great, that's really good, I really love what I've done with that, and then fail at trying to make it happen on everything else that's in it. You realise even more.
Yeah.
That, that's what motivates you. It's just problem solving. Having a puzzle which you keep unpicking and keep trying to solve every time in an aesthetic sense is really really motivating. And I've got the other stuff as well, so I can it's not about earning money. It's about I suppose just realizing that goal of creating a piece which can go into a gallery, and you can, you're motivated to let people go, oh yeah, that's what you're talking about. That's what you mean. That's your language. That's what you've been trying to say all along. I get it now. And having more and more people believe that, maybe.
And you've got a very distinctive style. So straight away that it's a Dan Henson painting. That's what I think, that I think that's what most artists try to achieve, to get to, and you've done that quite quickly in your career. And
again, it's not losing that as well. And you're right, is that it's very easy very easy to kind of get into a stage where, you know, like this is where, you know, you take all the colors that you distill from some of the pictures and you make it into something, and you put it and you kind of get working into it, and just putting that formula into practice never makes it right. You know, pushing it a little bit further means that you need to kind of realize that this is nowhere near finished. Like, there's a lot more that has to go into this, even though the components are right and in the right shape. It's like you need to really work at it, and it's only over time do you ever manage to kind of see that. It's like there's 3 triptychs which are in this show, which are the small 20 centimeter ones, and it was kind of weird because Patrick Murphy was over from the RHA, and he was just he was coming over to have a look at the work and talk to me, give me some advice. A friend of mine put me in touch with him, Adrian, and he came over and we talked about the work, and we talked about what it meant, and talked about the relationships between 3 pieces or 2 pieces and those kind of things. And it just suddenly, the triptych just nearly happened in front of us, just talking there. And it's kind of those little accidents and those slight realizations. Is I wasn't making like 3 or 4 small little 20 centimeter paintings anymore. This had so much more value, not monetary value, but so much more resonance, just an emotional value, just from combining them. And it had a narrative, and I think that's what I'm now getting into, is where I can see a narrative. And I pointed out those 3 pictures there that I've been working on, well, through the week, like late nights this week, and it started somewhere, and it's just taking off. It's just really starting to create this beautiful narrative where, you know, something that was epic in this proportion before is suddenly now a whole entire wall. So I think scale might be an interesting thing that I've never played with, not just bigger, but, you know, smaller as well.
What is the biggest?
Carry on, sorry, I'm just going to wipe my hands.
Oh, I'm just curious, what is the largest size canvas you've ever worked on?
I think there is. I did try to, just before COVID, I went and talked to the guy in Kennedy's, because I get my canvases from Kennedy's. Big plug for Kennedy's. And the reason I like that is because they're real quality, and and the way that they tighten at the back as well means that, you know, it's a good mechanical tightening. And the reason I want to get good quality is that recently my wife was in a house, and she saw a painting that was 15 or 20 years ago that I sold, and I remember the stretcher that I made for it. I think I might have made the canvas actually in school and in college. And I was thinking, oh my God, did it still look okay? Did it still sort of hold together? And I never want to be worried about that ever. Anyway, I was in Kennedy's, and he had a 2 meter by 2 meter square. Wow. And it was sitting on display, and I tried to haggle him down. I haggled him down as much as I could. You can't haggle Kennedy down at all. I don't know. And I think I got something like 100 quid off. And if I'd have got it, if I'd been able to carry it out and bring it on the dart home, I would have done. But I wasn't going to do it. So yeah, no, I think these are 120s, but they're 120s by 120s by 3, obviously. No, they're 150s. Yeah. They're 150s.
Right.
So they're by 3. So I count those as obviously, you know, 1 piece. I can't pick this computer up and show you them, unfortunately, and they're very wet, so I'm not going to bother.
Hopefully we'll see them on the gallery wall at some stage. There's a few there. So someone wants to know, what's the craziest art project you've been involved in?
I don't know crazy. I don't really do crazy.
I suppose, are they referring to the installations you used to do, or would that be it? No.
Well, the craziest one would have been the bumper cars in the RHA. I think that was crazy. I was involved in something recently. It wasn't really crazy, but it was kind of crazy in the sense of the way it came together. And this was more of an advertising, more curating an exhibition which was, and it was in Temple Bar Galleries, which was the shop that nearly wasn't. And
Oh,
there's a crossover
yeah.
between, I suppose, advertising and art. Is that the shop that nearly wasn't was ran and stocked and made by cancer survivors.
Oh, yeah. How did you get
Otherwise,
that?
we wouldn't be there. So that was good. But in terms of my own work, I think bumper cars was definitely it. I had a few kind of, installation style things which were awful, just because they were more college orientated and a bit crazy. But yeah, a bumper car was probably the pinnacle of crazy.
So is your wife jealous of your studio then, or is she still involved in the creative side of things? Or
No, she's
she's not tempted to get in there?
printing. I think Leonie would love to have a place where she can, where we can kind of screen print together, because both of us love screen printing.
Yeah.
Great to kind of set up a wet room and do that kind of stuff. I think it'd be perfect to be able to do that. But it's just another step, you know. A friend of mine, Monica Crowley, is a good screen printer with the Black Church Gallery, I think, Black Church. And she was actually in the shop that nearly wasn't. And a lot of ties, well, a lot of little projects that have ran with the damn fine print.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a massive buzz out of screen printing, which is kind of weird because it's so tidy and clean and controlled compared to this. You know, it's just as dirty though, if not more.
Yeah, no, a tidy studio doesn't make sense.
No, well, this is tidy for the moment.
Very tidy, actually, compared to most. You did a good job.
Yeah.
I think, have you seen all the questions there? I think there's. How does your mood influence your painting, from Mandy?
How does my mood?
Mood.
My mood. I think it really influences it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really influences it. I think mood isn't mood or emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It's more emotion. I don't come in angry and beat the crap out of a canvas. I think I don't paint if I'm stressed. It's as simple as that. Like I don't think I function very well when I'm stressed. So I think that's the peak. If you are stressed or upset or whatever in any way, it's really good to come and sit and look at your work and figure a direction rather than actually start putting paint onto them, because I think it's nearly like going shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah.
You always buy lots of stuff for you. It's not good for you. I hear Ron is out in this. What's going on? There's loads of very strange comments coming back here.
It's okay. Can you see them all?
I have a few pieces in. Have you any work in the hotels or restaurants? I have a couple of pieces in the Shelburne.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. They took some. Sorry, I can't see these with my glasses on.
Do you use lacquer? And if so, which ones do you recommend?
I don't use lacquer. I do use some gloss mediums. I do use some gloss mediums, and I much prefer. I like liquid for stretching and for good gradient work. Although you need ventilation, because I am off my head when I've been in the room. So poppy poppy seed oil is really, really good for drying, but it doesn't extend the paint the same way as a liquid does. Like I have a bit of a liquid addiction, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Just one there from Trudy Good. I see nature in all your paintings: water, earth, air. Is nature a big part of your inspiration behind your work?
I don't know. Yeah, I take inspiration from it, but I don't. Nothing in my work is literal. I don't sort of. We talked about the stuff that I see through National Geographic and through NASA stuff, and it's not stuff that I go, I'm going to paint a delta, or I'm going to paint a landscape, or I'm going to do this. I think it kind of just grows that way a little, and we would. One of the reasons that is, and I think it's because I use a lot of blue.
Yeah.
I use blue because when you make blue lighter, it stays blue, or when you make green lighter, it stays green. When you use reds, it becomes a really, really tough thing to work with. It goes pink, it goes purple. It's not as organic. It becomes nearly scientific when we look back at the electron microscope stuff. And the interpretation is less, I think, organic and just slightly more difficult to work with. So I've gone in a way where I work with greens and I work with blues and I work with those yellows, and then from time I highlight it with reds and I use red in a different way. And I've started a few pieces where I have a few pieces where I'm using red, but it's kind of trying to. I mean, there's a little triptych just here. And then I have these ones as well. Now it's about calming red right down, so that you. These don't really look very good online. They seem to kind of lose.
These
are very good when they're well lit, kind of in a gallery or in real life, whereas they tend to, the subtlety that you exercise with working around reds. I find reds is kind of my new thing that I need to conquer, alongside with everything else. And it's working through blues into purple, and now it's kind of coming into a bit of a red time for me.
Mairead, hi, she wants to know, do you solely work in your studio or would you paint elsewhere, outdoors, say, or traveling?
No, I tried to paint outdoors, but it doesn't work because the cat's all over it. Yeah, this is why I built this, is so that I have a place to do it. And if I could have made it. If I could have made it bigger, I would have done, but I couldn't, unfortunately. So
you don't bring a sketchbook with you when you go out and you're on holidays? Do you sketch ideas on paper when you're?
No, but I do photograph a lot of stuff. And when I photograph stuff, it's usually quite abstract in the way that it looks. It doesn't really. I don't try. I might capture texture and color. So it doesn't make for very good photographic viewing, but it makes for good inspiration for bringing work home and realizing it that way.
I was actually expecting to see loads of photographs in your studio, as usually that's what I see in most.
No, I'm not really.
It's all in your head.
I don't really do that. No, I don't really do that because it is largely about process. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I have there. It is largely about process and color, making color decisions and using. I mean, I am influenced by the energies and the light and movement and those things that we see in all of the references that I used earlier. But they're pretty much locked in there. In terms of the way that you move it and the way that you work compositionally on the canvas. It's the piece in front of you that you work with. I'm not really referring to anything.
That was that's really interesting, Dan. I really enjoyed getting to the studio and the new works, and thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. It's been a fantastic week, to be honest. Not only for the studio but for the work as well. Yeah. And thanks to you. I mean, you've really, I think you seized a moment here. This is good for.
We got there.
Yeah, it's good for people to get out there, and I think you're enabling that. And I think it's well worth doing. It's a fantastic opportunity. Thank you very much.
And I hope to see them in person. All right, thanks, Dan. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.